Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are. Going backwards, I went to A levels sometimes back, 1972, 73, in Kenyatta University. That time it used to be higher secondary school division. And we used basically to do science, right? Most of the students in the medical school came from Kenyatta University. In fact, half the class. So in 1974, I joined the dental school or the Department of Dental Surgery that time because it was under the Faculty of Medicine, 1974. And I was amongst the first cohort, the first dental students in Kenya, trained in Kenya. Because prior to that, Mutembei, students and dentists used to be trained outside the country. So you can go to Britain, you can go to India, United States, so that just before that, the majority of practicing dentists were all trained abroad. So we are the first ones. And it was not easy. You can imagine that time when you are pioneer dental class. Because sometimes even our own medical students used to see us competitors. Sometimes in quotes, almost like enemies. And yet we're in the same profession. So we face the challenges in our learning. For example, I was a class rep representing the dental school students, the dental students. And it was not a walk in the park because sometimes the medical doctors were not very willing to teach us dentistry and to teach the medical aspects of dentistry. To the extent that I remember one time when I was a student, I was a class rep, I was very firm with a foreign lecturer who walked into a class and said, I've been asked to teach you about X. It was about diabetes and related issues. And he said, I don't know what to teach you. So I stood up as a class rep and I told him, then if you don't know what to teach us, you have no business at all in coming to our class. The man changed and turned red. But I'm glad eventually anyway, he taught us. And the rest is history. So we graduated.
You stood up to a teacher?
Yes.
To a trainer?
Yeah.
You stood up to a
Yes, I
lecturer.
did. I stood up to him because I felt as a class rep, that was my duty, irrespective of what happens. I was prepared to face any consequences, by the way. Anyway, we finished. We were the first class. And it was not easy. Subsequent to that, I was very lucky. After we went for our internship training in the then Kenyatta National Hospital, Kabete Ameno. It used to be called Kabete Ameno those days. And we did our internship there for 1 year. After the internship, we were posted out. But somehow I was very lucky. Very lucky. The head of the National Dental Unit then thought I should not go out and serve Kenyans in the provinces or districts. So I remained in Kabete Ameno. Yes, I remained there. And I was very lucky when we were there. We were offered common scholarships or fellowships. And I was one of the 2 students who were awarded scholarships to go and study a master's degree in dental surgery in India.
Which year will that be?
Yeah, that was 80. All right? So that was in 1980. So I went to India for 2 years. I did something called a Master of Dental Surgery in a subject called periodontology. Periodontology, that's the study of diseases that affect the supporting structures of the teeth. So we are talking about the gums. We are talking about the bone. We are talking about the fibers that connect the bone to the tooth. That's my job, by the way. And that's what I specialized in. There was no Kenyan who was specialized in that area then. In fact, we were taught by Ugandan lead that time. So we stayed in India and we qualified. We came back in 1982. Immediately I came in 1982, I was made in charge of the Department of Periodontology in Kabete Ameno.
So that's a new department.
Yes. So I became in charge. It was there, but I was made in charge now because I'm a specialist. As opposed to others who are in charge, but they were not specialists. So I became in charge. And again, that was tough because you can imagine you want to Mutembei to show a difference from those who are non-specialists and you who is a specialist. So I had to make sure that we owned new equipment, new instruments, new materials, and that was the beginning of the Department of Periodontology at KNH, or Kenyatta National Hospital then. I rose from a dental officer, specialist, to a senior dental officer, and then finally to deputy officer in charge of the National Dental Unit. Because the person who was in charge was from Ethiopia. So I deputized him, right? And so I worked there as his deputy, and in the process, somewhere along the line, as I worked in Kabete Ameno, I was requested to provide part-time teaching services at the dental school, at the Department of Dental Surgery, University of Nairobi. That is how I began teaching in 1983-84 there, right? So I've had actually free services for quite some time. And then, lo and behold, as history would have it, there was an opportunity for me to become a lecturer at the university. So I joined the University of Nairobi as a lecturer way back in 1985. It's a long time. And I rose, of course, as you know, from a lecturer to senior lecturer, associate professor, and full professor. In that period, I was the chairman of the Department of Periodontology and Community Dentistry.
UN.
Yes, University of Nairobi. And when we became a faculty of dental sciences, I was the first interim dean. After that, I was elected as a dean twice. You know, you have to campaign to become a dean. So on both occasions, I was elected unopposed to serve other colleagues, and it was a source of joy. Of course, being a dean, a first elected dean, was not a walk in the park, because we had to make sure that the departments were well equipped in terms of dental materials and the actual equipment. And it was not easy. Why? Because our medical counterparts in the Ministry of Health could not appreciate why dentistry was so expensive. You understand small things, like a probe, and you find it is tens of shillings. So they didn't like it. If it is a chair that time, can you imagine? That time, you find a dental chair costing over 1 million shillings. So you have 20 chairs, you know what that means. Very expensive, pricey, as you people say. Or pricey, very expensive. But anyway, we tried our best with the support of others. Well, we okay. Again, as I said, when I just was about to finish my dental, my deanship as a dentist, I was so lucky because I was appointed Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Nairobi, in charge of academic affairs. So,
which is this?
Yes, 2004. Yeah. Yes, 2004, around that time.
Did it come from nowhere? Or it was
No, it did not come from nowhere, because I remember a senior colleague, without being very specific, he told me, you see, the post of a DVC, Academic Affairs, is about to fall vacant. And I think you can get this post.
Who was occupying it?
Yes. It was Professor Thuranira Kaimenyi. That lady, remember, she was the DVC that time. And the Vice Chancellor at that time was Professor Kemba, Crispus Kemba. Yeah. So I was told to submit my CV to the Vice Chancellor. One morning, in the afternoon, it was there. And you can't believe it. So when from nowhere, yes, I was appointed as the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academic Affairs to work under the late Professor Magoha. Because he had also become a Vice Chancellor 6 months before me. 6 months before me. No, he was a Deputy Vice Chancellor at that time, but he was acting Vice Chancellor when I joined him. So they advertised for the post of Vice Chancellor 6 months after I joined as a DVC, and I applied for the job. People are not amused, my competitors, without being specific. They were not amused. Where this young man who wants to run before he walks or crawl.
Yes.
So there was tough.
A massive leap.
Yes, because I moved from dean to a deputy vice chancellor without becoming a principal of a college.
You don't have to.
You don't have to, but ideally that is the best way because you grow into the system. But when you are dean, you can become a vice chancellor.
And you are qualified.
Yes, I was qualified. Many people have become vice chancellors after being deans anyway. It's nothing very unusual. But I consider myself very privileged, very honored. So I became a DVC. And again, we fought for that interview. Magoha became the vice chancellor. And then I remained as deputy vice chancellor in charge of academic affairs. And we did a lot of reforms. Many reforms. They are there to see. Now, one might ask, what is it that for example, what reforms did I do when I was a dean, for example, of dental school, to merit me become a deputy vice chancellor? One thing I will never forget, as a dean, the first elected dean of the dental school was to start a postgraduate degree program in the school.
Postgraduate degree.
Yeah. So that people can specialize in different disciplines of dentistry. By the way, Mutembe, you might not know, there are about 11 to 12 disciplines of specialties in dentistry.
Are there?
Yes. So I had to start a postgraduate program depending on the capacity of the people who are there then. So we started small. We have grown today. That time when we were starting, there was no other university which was offering master's degree in the region. It was the first in East Africa. And I'm proud that later Uganda came on board, Tanzania. Now we are okay. And we are producing quite a good number of postgraduate students from the dental school. So I'll never forget that. Because one of the greatest challenges is to get specialists from outside to come and teach. Which used to happen that time. You get a part-time specialist. They'll come for 6 months, for 3 months to teach you, then they leave. But one would always wish, of course, to have your own people.
Not visiting you.
Yeah. People who have time even to do research, whether operational or otherwise. And that's what has happened over the years. You saw an article the other day, one of us has done a very important research to relate to, for example, body weight and the presence of gum disease in the mouth. Right? You can have low body weight if you have gum disease. So you need to take care of your teeth. So I'm very happy. That's one thing I will never forget. The other thing is that we initiated the process of having a theater, first theater. I don't know whether we know this, Mutembe. Dentists are the ones who discovered anesthesia. The ones we use today to operate patients and do other things. We were the first ones.
Why was that?
Yeah, because of course, pain, as dentists, we are to look for something to make sure that our people undergo some form of surgery. And dental surgery, that's why it's called dental surgery. It's surgery, actually. Because surgery means manual manipulation of tissues. It can be painful. That's why we discovered that, especially the so-called laughing gas or anesthesia. You see what I'm trying to say? So we initiated the process of having a theater at the dental school or School of Dental Sciences, and today it is there. I'm so proud of that. Even when I left, that is the position at the moment. So that's great. I'm very happy about that. Even that time, we didn't have a library for dental school. We used to go to medical school. Again, we made sure that we start a dental school library. Now it is there. So if I may go now back to the University of Nairobi, you might ask, what is it that you did as a Deputy Vice Chancellor? As a Deputy Vice Chancellor, I initiated certain reforms. Chief among them was to make sure.
When did you, not as DVC Academic Affairs?
Yes, as DVC Academic Affairs, 2004. Because I was there, don't forget, up to 2013. I was there for 9.5 years, a long time. If you see all the certificates which have been signed, most of them have my name there, my signature. They bear my signature. 9.5 years is not a short time, it's a long time. So one of them, I thought we had to improve the way we supervise our postgraduate students. I was very tough with the supervision of postgraduate students. I could not stomach the idea that a student could come there for a master's of 2 years and take 4 years or 6 years because of the laxity of a lecturer. I could not also stomach the idea that you come there for a Ph.D. program of a minimum of 2 years to 4 years and you take again 6 years. Very unfair to the student. You have had instances where students have fought their supervisors because they have delayed them. And yet they were promised, we finish in time. So I made sure that is the case. The other thing which I made sure I feel so bad that rumors that it has gone back. There were rumors that people used to have their master's thesis written for them. And I couldn't believe it. Until I saw some, what you would call some fake sort of advert in one of the notice boards. Again, I was very, very tough on that. And I talked to my members of staff. I told them, this is very shameful. You cannot do this. We must empower our students to do that which they must do. Right? Generate ideas, write research proposals, go through the rigors of academia. Once they have been approved, you supervise and make sure they pass. And that was a tradition when I was there for a long, long time. Also, when I was there, I realized we didn't have a criteria for appointment and promotion of lecturers. Appointment and promotion. So by the time I left Mutembei, we had a criteria for appointment and promotion of lecturers, which was the same in all faculties, in all schools. Some people did not like that. For example, I said, for you to become a lecturer in the long run, you must have a Ph.D., Doctor of Philosophy. And to me, that was a gold standard. Like in other places, for you to become a Don, you must have a Ph.D. But when I came in, there were some people who are lecturers without Ph.D.s. Especially in the medical school where I had come from, College of Health Sciences. So they didn't like me for that. But I said, yes, to be a doctor is a great thing. To do masters is also great. And you are a wonderful specialist. But